Okay, so Elegoo Saturn in the house. You're watching my wife over here, thanks to her for the unboxing. Again, I'm wasting her big brain, but I want to use her a little bit in the channel. I don't have any math yet for her to do. So the mid-size printer, I'm excited to get this because I want to test it. If you guys see, I'll float my ePax E10 review, which was an excellent machine. So I want to be able to compare this Elegoo Saturn to it because they're the same size, same resolution. So that'll be an interesting comparison. Let's just talk quickly about the machine after the unboxing. The USB port is on the side, which I always like. Everyone knows my preferred spot is on the side. Although I do prefer the side front, they did the side rear. As other people have pointed out, if there's a resin spill, a bad resin spill, you know, when you're more lined up with the build plate in the front, you might be more likely to get resin pouring in there. If you have a spill that bad that you have resin pouring out of your machine and going into your USB port, you might want to find a different hobby. I'm not sure. That would be pretty bad. But anyway, so side, rear, although I prefer front. Touch screens haven't gotten any bigger, which I would like to see one of the manufacturers. I'm not sure how much extra it would be, but I would like to see someone go to like a bigger touch screen eventually. It's got should I talk about the cover like I always do? Call it a crappy plastic cover? Or maybe I shouldn't, but maybe I already did by doing that. Anyway, Z-Rod, as you would expect, incredibly stable. So that's good. Oh wait, let's talk about the stuff that came in the box because there's something different for once. Elegoo, I'm not sure why, but they sent me a urine specimen cup sample. No, I'm not, I guess it's for pouring or mixing resin or doing something, but it does look like a urine specimen cup, so I had to say that. Okay, build plate. You can see this looks, I have to say, I'm gonna have to measure it against the build plate on my E10. I think my E10 build plate was a little a little bigger, not because the LCD screen is bigger, but the E10 is upgradable to a bigger screen. So I think it came with a bigger build plate. So if you upgrade to the bigger screen, the build plate would be ready for it. So I'm gonna compare, but I think this is a little smaller than my E10 build plate. Doesn't affect anything right now. They're both 8.9 inch LCD screens, which is how big you can print. It's a sloped build screen, not the steepest slope, but it is sloped. What I don't love about this, it's got a flat square in the middle, so that means resin is not coming off that flat square unless you actually tilt the screen somehow. Tilt the screen. I'll be okay. Unless you tilt the build plate. So the way I do it, I just let it drain off and then I just grab the build plate off. That means I'm gonna have to clean this. Not a big deal, but there's a little bit of resin that's gonna be pooled up here that will not run off no matter how long you leave it. They're back with their standard ball joint, which everyone knows is my second favorite leveling system for build plate. I prefer the 4-screw leveling system, but the ball joint is not bad. You just have to make sure you tighten it enough that when you're trying to, scrape prints off your plate, you do not change the level. I do think it's more likely on a ball joint than the 4-screw system. That's why it's not my preferred system, but it's not that big a negative. And the rest of the stuff it comes with COVID masks. And then you've got your spatula, nice big pack of funnels, and actually lots of gloves too. Well, some of these might be to handle the urine specimen, so I'm not sure, but it's a lot of gloves. Plastic spatula, standard tools, power supply. Let me look at the power supply. Okay, this is the one I prefer because it's the end plug doesn't take up too much room in your surge protector or wherever you're plugging this in. I don't like the ones that have like a big, huge plug that you have to stick in, so this is good. So that's it for just looking at the machine. Although wait, I forgot. We have to talk about the one thing in the prototype they sent me that I loved, and I believe it's here also. And yeah, so this is something that the E10 didn't have, which I wish it had, and I think everyone else should copy this. It's got 4 tiny little legs coming off it, and it's got 4 holes for those tiny little legs to go. So you can't misplace this vat. I mean, I guess theoretically could, but if you did, you shouldn't be 3D printing. So you just put the 4 legs into the 4 holes and it's perfectly lined up. So that's, you won't, I don't know if you can see from there, but it's got the 4 holes. You know, that's a really good touch. It does come equipped with the tape around the screen. Okay, it's got a protective film over, so make sure when you get it, you peel back the film. And see, there's a protective film over the LCD for shipping, which is good. So, you know, that's it. It's got very big, heavy Z-rod, which you expect because this is a mid-size printer. It's 8.9 inches is the LCD screen, so that's the printing area is 8.9 inches. So it's going to create a lot of peel forces, a lot of suction. So you need a really big, heavy, stable Z, which it has, which of course is good to see. So that's it. That's it for unboxing and just, you know, looking in general at the machine. As people who have been watching my video reviews lately know, the important thing to me is to check this light source for hot spots, cold spots, gridding. So I will be showing that upcoming. And then I'm going to test some prints and we'll see how this machine performs. And then I'll come back and give, you know, my review of how the machine does. Expectations are high, of course. It's Elegoo. They make good products. So I'm excited to get testing on this. This wave of mid-sized printers makes me happy. I'll be even happier when they come out with an 8K screen for something like this, so that we get the super high res, you know, for minis and stuff. But I'm sure that'll be coming soon. So, well, soon, maybe next year. So that did stick with me. I will have high-res photos of all my test prints at the very end of the video. So if you want to skip to that to just say, how did it print? You can skip to the end of the video and you'll see it. But I'm going to dive a little deeper into how I feel about the machine when I come back. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in how I feel it compares to the ePax E10. Okay, thanks. Hey, I'm here after testing my Saturn. I'm not sure where to start. I guess, let me start by saying it printed great for me. I printed like this troll, which you're going to see the pictures of from the Lost Adventures 2 Kickstarter. This would have been on my other printers. The top half was one print. The bottom half was one print. The base would take up a plate almost by itself. I might have been able to sneak the arm on. I didn't try. So I might have been able to do it in 3 prints, possibly 4. Let's say 3. So it would have been about 3 4-hour prints, so about 12 hours. It all fit on one plate on the Saturn, and even though I use, you know, a slightly higher lifting height, so things go a little slower, and also slightly longer cure time, and the print for overall would take a little longer than one plate. So instead of say 4 hours per plate, like it would have been on the smaller one, it took 5 hours, but I did the whole thing at once. So instead of 12 hours total, this was 5 hours. This guy came out incredible. I painted him up as a bronze statue with a marble base. I'll show you pictures. So, and I think considering I'm not that good a painter and this was only my second time attempting marble, I don't know how it's going to come out in the pictures, but like to the naked eye, it actually looks like real stone. I'm a little bit proud of this one, considering my paint level. And this is 167.5 millimeters tall. He is 340%, I think, scaled over the smaller version. This was also printed on the Saturn. So I'm going to have high-res photos of this. You can see how does it do on a small miniature. And by the way, all my small supports, I'm going to make another video on supporting for big printers, but all of my ultra-fine supports actually came out fine on this guy. And what I did was I made a couple of them a little smaller in Chitterbox and then saved as an STL with just a few of them. A few of the like 0.10s, I made 0.05, like super duper thin. Then I saved as an STL, then I scaled it up to this size. And you'll see in the pictures, you can't really see any damage on him, even though some of the supports scaled up must have been about 1.2. Still very minimal damage. The guy came out like pristine. It's pretty cool. So now let's talk about what was disconcerting when I was doing this review. And I have to start off by saying it didn't seem to affect my prints, but I did discover something, and I'm not the only person. I'm not trying to like take credit, but I'm saying I discovered it when I was doing my when I was trying to test the light source, which I'll run it on one side of my head here so you can see, and then after I'm done talking, we'll go to close-up view of the light source, and we'll talk about that also. But what I noticed when I was testing the light source is, because what I do is you see it, I just take a piece of paper, I take the vat out and take the plate off, and then I just run a print and I just check the light source. But what I noticed when I did this was the build plate arm, after it came down and then the light would come on, when the light went off, the build plate was moving up super slow, and all of a sudden it was like shooting up, like turbo speed. I was like, what the hell? So at first I noticed it, but I wasn't focusing on it because I was looking at the light source. And then after I did after I was done, filming the light source, I decided to do the off time test, which I'd been doing, on, for my other video, which I'll float a link to that here about the off time setting. And I thought I want to test the off time setting on this anyway, because different printers, I think due to the way they accelerate, had different amount of times than you would expect given the lifting height and the lifting speed, and then the retraction speed also. Like, out of 4 printers I tested, if you watch that video, only one moved in the expected time. The other ones had variations. They were all slower than I thought they would be, because they literally just didn't move as fast as what you would think was programmed in based on the parameters. So I wanted to test the Saturn for that also. But like I said, even before I start that test, I did notice that it went, literally after the light went off, the arm was going up slow and then boom, up fast. So I really wanted to test it. So when I tested, this is what I found. So on settings that were 6 millimeters lift height at 60 millimeters per minute, so it should go up 1 millimeter every second. I set it this way to make the math easy. So it should go up 1 millimeter every second. I set it for 180 on the retract, so it should have gone 6 seconds up and then 2 seconds down for 8 seconds. So it should have gone light off, 6 seconds up, 2 seconds down, light on. And that is not what happened at all. So what happened was, and this was very interesting, and I don't have exact numbers. What I was doing was using a stopwatch, and I timed it like 15 different times to just try to get as good an average as possible and eliminate as much of human reaction time error as possible. So what I found interesting was, on all my other printers, when I tried to run what should take 8 seconds, 6 seconds up, 2 seconds down, on all my other printers, it took anywhere from 8 seconds up to 10 seconds for that to actually occur. So all of them were basically slower than 8 seconds because there was acceleration involved. When I ran it on the Saturn, that test, which should have taken 8 seconds or longer, only took 7.5 seconds. So it was only 7.5 seconds between light off, 6 millimeters up, 6 millimeters back down, and light on. It shouldn't have been less than 8 seconds by any stretch, but it was 7.5 seconds. So then I thought, wait, I need to break down this timing to see what's going on. I mean, I could see visually that, again, and this I did with the build plate on, so I could actually see it a lot better. What was happening was, build plate would come down, light would come on. When the light went off, like I'd seen when I was running my light test, it went up somewhere from, I'm not sure, like it's hard for me to tell, somewhere like 1 to 2 millimeters maybe, like really slow. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like, on a roller coaster. It goes, you tick, 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 tick. Well, that's what this was doing. It was going slow and then zooming up like to get that 6 millimeter height, it was zooming up, the last 4 or 5 millimeters, like pretty fast. And then I also timed it, from the time it went up, I actually timed it going back down because I want to break this down into segments. So from the time it went up, right, the time it went back down should have been 2 seconds. But what I found was it was 3 seconds. So it was going down a little slower than I was expecting, maybe because I had to accelerate up to speed. I'm not sure why, but whatever it was, from the time it reached its pinnacle, the 6 millimeters, to the time it went back down, was 3 seconds. So why is that significant? What do we care about that? Well, that means it only took 4.5 seconds for it to move from light off to 6 millimeters high. Now that motion should take at least 6 seconds based on what I set, which was, I set the movement for 1 millimeter per second. So it should have taken at least 6 seconds. It's doing it in 4.5 seconds. And I noticed it's going slower in the beginning. So just doing some napkin math, that means if the first, say, millimeter was going slow, right, then that means the next 5 millimeters were occurring in like 3.5 seconds, which means instead of the 60 millimeters a second I had put in for my lift speed, when it was after that first millimeter, it must have been going about 110 millimeters per second, which is super fast. And that's happening after 1 millimeter, maybe after 2. But whatever it is, it's going to be when the model or the plate is still contacting the FEP and still, deforming it and getting the suction. Then all of a sudden it's pulling up fast. That we know is normally bad. I mean, there's a reason. If you listen to any, especially any of the guys who do supports, all the support specialists out there, everyone will tell you, like, you want your lift speed at 50 or below, maybe 60 max, but 50 or below, and on a bigger printer with more peel forces, maybe even 40. And now this printer, despite what I set it for, which was 60 millimeters per second, is on its own accelerating to like somewhere between like 100 and 120 millimeters per second, way faster than I'd ever want it to go. So when I saw this made me nervous. And also, I had also been told to look out for this by 3D Stubaminden. Okay, I said it a little funny because it's German. I don't speak German. And I think it's probably 3D Stubaminden. Anyway, Yannick Tillman. I don't know if he wanted to use his name, but it's easier. Anyway, he had said he thought someone had told him that there was like fast acceleration at the beginning. Not exactly what I found. I found slow and then fast, but same result, I guess, in the end. And I guess someone who has a YouTube channel, I don't know how to say his name either. I think Julian Schutz or Schwetz. I don't know, but I'll link it. He actually made a video on correcting this. So let me talk about this. So it made me really nervous when I saw how fast that arm was moving up. I mean, it's obviously programmed in by Elegoo to go slow and then rapidly accelerate. Why they would do that, I don't know. I actually emailed them about it, and they said, their engineers said, once you get past that level, it's okay to go fast. I actually disagree. Elegoo, I know you guys are going to probably watch this. I'm sorry to say, I disagree with your engineers 110%. Rapid acceleration, while the print is still, part of the print is possibly still attached to the FEP. There's a reason we don't want this rapid acceleration. It's going to cause fine supports to fail. It could possibly cause lines in the model. It could cause the model to fall off the build plate and get stuck to the FEP. I mean, there's a reason we don't set lift speeds at 110, 120 millimeters per minute. So we don't want you to build it in for us if we know that it's bad. So I do hope, Elegoo, you're watching this. Please change those parameters in your G code, because everyone shouldn't have to do what I'm about to tell them to do, which is there's a file, and I'll try to get a link for it, where you download onto USB a new G-code file, and what it does is it stops that acceleration until it gets past like 5 millimeters, so at least gets past a safe distance. So I actually installed that on mine because I didn't want prints falling off and failing and all that stuff. And my prints didn't print it great. So I would recommend to everyone that I wouldn't call it flashing. Maybe it is flashing. I'm not an expert in this area of what the terms are. But basically, you just put in this new file, you stick it into your Saturn on the USB, and you click that file and run print like you're printing something, and it loads in the new G-code parameters to stop this like turbo mode, and from what I hear, also not all the Saturns have this. I'm not sure if that's true either. I haven't been able to validate that, but some people don't seem to have that problem. And some people are watching this. I know you're going to post in the comments, you've got turbo mode. So you have turbo mode. You want to change those parameters, get rid of turbo mode. I think it's highly detrimental, or possibly highly detrimental. You don't want it. Throwing that out the window, I think if you fix that, then you've got a good printer. Like I said, it's very comparable to me to the E10. I found my E10 possibly a little more reliable so far. I'm getting more consistent prints with it. I did have with this printer, I think I did have some little bit of peeling up of the base of the supports on one of these prints. Didn't affect the print, but I think it means it might have like a slightly weaker light source because I used basically the same settings on my E10, and I had a little bit of peel. I know it wasn't a leveling issue. I level extremely, extremely carefully. Plus, I double checked it. But it's a good printer, and like I said, when you see the close-up high-res pictures of this and this, it's gorgeous. So I can recommend the Saturn. You have to check pricing. Like this again is going to come down to one of those things. Like I think if like the Epax E10 is cheaper for you, pick it up. The Saturn's cheaper, pick that up. I don't think you'll be unhappy with either one. Although I do think with the Saturn, like I said, you definitely need to change that G code, because I don't care what the company tells you. If they say it's okay for like super rapid acceleration after 1 or 2 millimeters, I disagree 110%. So that's enough on that. Let's talk about the good stuff. So you'll see the high-res photos in 2 minutes when I'm done with this review. But it printed the little guy, great, came out great. So these printers, people are saying, well, how does a 4K, printer, big screen do on a tiny little mini? Awesome. Just what you'd expect. With it lives up to the resolution it's supposed to have. It printed like it's supposed to print. If you do something big like this, it came out great. There's no lines on it, nothing wrong with it. It's basically perfect. And the way I statuized it, I actually think it looks pretty cool. It looks like a real statue to me. Maybe you guys see the picture, you won't think so, but I don't know. It looks pretty damn cool, actually. I want to do it even bigger now. On my Phenom, maybe I'll go double size. Although someone asked me on Facebook when I posted how much it weighed. Maybe I should get the scale. I don't think it's more than about 10, 12 ounces. Pretty heavy. It's nice. Makes it actually feel like a real statue, because I printed it solid. I wanted to test the Saturn out. So instead of hollowing the model, I actually wanted to create big suction forces. Got a big printer with a big plate, big vat, lots of resin in there. I want a print that had a huge cross section so I could really push this machine to its limits. And I have to say it performed quite admirably. It did well on the Troll, and like I said, did well on the little guy. So it's what I expected. I expected Elegoo to come out with a pretty good printer. There's no glass coating on the top. I know some people have been concerned with, do these printers have glass coatings or not? This one, as far as I could tell, did not have like a separate glass coating on it. So I think you do have to be careful. My understanding is, and I talked to another manufacturer about this, not Elegoo, is that when using glass on the bigger screens is actually more problematic. Like on the small screens, they said it's easier and pretty cheap. But on the big screens, they said that glass can actually break pretty easily too. I have seen some people posting, and I didn't do this, but I have seen people posting that what they've been doing to protect the screen is putting an extra sheet of FEP between their screen and the FEP. Doesn't seem like to me that should affect the print too much, but anything that is in between the light and your print, I guess, could have some effect. So I don't really know, and I haven't tested that yet. I'm not sure I really want to. Instead, I think I'm just going to be very careful putting my vat in and out, make sure I don't scratch that. I think it's just the polarizing layer on top. So but people tell me if you get resin on that, it's really hard to clean off without scraping it. I don't know. I haven't gotten resin on mine. Hopefully I won't. I'm really careful about that. And in all my printing, I've been lucky. I've never had a punctured FEP. And that's because anytime I think there's any kind of fail, I totally, dump my vat out and clean it pristine and then put it back. So like if I see even the slightest fail on something, I take my vat out and clean it. And I recommend to all you guys, don't be lazy about cleaning your vat out. Sometimes even if you print like 10 successful prints in a row and you think nothing's failed at all, you still might want to clean your vat. It's possible. There could have been missed islands, could be a little bit of resin in there. Even a little bit can cause you harm later. So I know people say I'm like a fear monger because I say support every island and do this and that, and I'm trying to create fear. I'm not. I'm trying to save you guys from puncturing your FEPs. And if people say that doesn't happen, it does happen to people. I see posts about it all the time. So I'm not trying to make you guys afraid. Someone said they think I try to make people afraid so they need professional supports. That's like crazy. What I want you guys to have is a good printing experience. And I try to save you from mistakes that I've made in the past and mistakes that I've seen other people make that I haven't made yet. And by being very careful about cleaning my vat, I've never punctured an FEP, so I just advise you guys all to do the same. So back to the Saturn. So it's a good machine if you can get it at a good price. I'm gonna admit they didn't send me this. I was lucky enough. I was clicking like crazy when they did the pre-orders, and I didn't get it on the first wave. I got it on the second try. So I didn't even get a free machine here. I'm not making this review because they gave me a machine. I bought the machine. Thank you to my Patreons, by the way. I use the money from Patreon to buy the machine. That's the purpose of the Patreon, so I can give you independent reviews, real reviews. That's why I mentioned the turbo zoom. Maybe someone who gets a free machine. I'm sure most of the reviews don't mention the turbo zoom. So they have it. They need to correct it, I believe. And if you have one with the turbo zoom, like I said, look in the description here for the links to the video of the guy who actually posted the fix. And I used his fix. I didn't come up with my own fix. I don't mess with code. But this guy had a fix, and I used it and seemed to work great. And that's it. So let's stay tuned for like 2 minutes. Let's look at the high-res photos of these guys so you can see the detail that this thing is capable of, even with the huge screen. If you want to print something small or a bunch of small things at once, you should see the detail you're going to get with it. And then you'll see the bigger pieces up close, so you can see if you print something huge, what's it going to look like. Be aware when you print with a bigger printer, with a bigger vat, and you print more stuff, you use more resin. But you're getting more stuff out of it, so it's okay. But I do find I'm starting to print even more because the plate can hold more, so I'm chewing through resin like crazy. But for me, it's a great thing. I can now print at sizes that I couldn't do before, obviously. Now I can do terrain pieces that I just couldn't do on my smaller printers that weren't cut up for them. So for me, I become such a resin guy. Like I'm between the Phenom and these other things, like for me, everything I can do resin, I'm doing in resin. So, resin costs are coming down, especially for my terrain pieces. I use one of the cheaper good resins like Soraya Fast Gray. It's pretty cheap to even, if you hollow pieces, you can still print terrain pretty cheaply, and it just looks like a million times better than FDM. So anyway, that's it for the review. I hope you guys liked it. Please stay tuned. I'm going to show you the light source up close. There was tiny little bit of gridding, tiny little bit of hot spots, but not to the extent where I was concerned at all. I don't think it was to the degree where you're going to be getting print failures and support failures because there's a hot or cold spot. It was not stark. The cold spots were not like black, like terribly cold. Just a little. There were just a couple. You'll see, just a couple little areas where the light's not exactly uniform. But I think on screens this size, I doubt. Well, I shouldn't say that. I haven't seen a perfectly uniform light yet, like the way I saw it, like on the Elegoo Mars 2 Pro. If you look at my video for that, if I remember, I'll float a link around my head. You look at the light source, and in that video, that light source was like totally pristine, like perfect everywhere. And I think on the Voxel Lab Proxima, that also had an incredible light source with a really even distribution. I don't think on the 8.9 inch screens we're going to see perfect light distribution, but I'll hold my review. I haven't seen the Frozen Sonic Mighty yet, or the Anycubic Mono X. So when I review those two, we'll check the light sources there and see if they're any better or not. But the light source here gave me no concern. So that's enough talking. Let's look at the light source. Let's look at the prints. I'll link in the video where you can buy this. I'm not even sure if it's on Amazon or not or whatever, but if I do have a link, if you buy it through there, you help support the channel, but I don't really care about that so much. I'd rather, if you guys could support me on Patreon, the money that comes in from my Patreon gets used for buying printers like this to test and buying the resins to test as well. So that's it. Please like, please subscribe, stay tuned, check out the pictures. Thanks. First, let's look at the little guy. You guys know when I do this test print, I always look at the belt buckle, which came out really, really nice. The pouch at his waist, very good definition on the lacing and the strings. The teeth on the gun, another thing I focus on, all came out really clear. So I was actually pretty excited. I shouldn't be surprised when a larger printer can print with this kind of detail, but for some reason it's still surprising to see something so small come off such a big plate and then look so good. So I'm very happy with the way this came out. So that's effectively the 2K resolution, and it delivers. So it's good to see that. You know, you want to see these larger printers capable of printing your small stuff nicely as well. And I would say that this is an extremely good print. I think you guys would all agree with that, hopefully. And then next up, we're going to look at the Troll. And this Troll, you know, I just wanted to print something that, again, that even in pieces, you know, would take 3 to 4 build plates on the small print. I want to see how it would come out, you know, all at once on a bigger printer. And I would have to say that the printer performed quite admirably. All the details are definitely there. Print looks great, very crisp, very clear. It's hard to even tell looking at this. It's hard to tell that's actually, you know, how big it is. But you saw it in the video. It's extremely large print, and you know, came out great. So I'm very happy with that. Now let's look at my fake statue of the gunslinger. I'm going to digress to say that I'm overly proud of the marble I painted on the base there. Hopefully you guys agree it looks like real stone. Like in person, it really does. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about the print. Print, as you can see, came out gorgeous. Detail is amazing. Let's take a look at the back of it. And you can see every detail in this model. You know, when you blow things up, the details should come through better, obviously. But you can see just how good the printer delivered here in terms of all this detail. And then, you know, when we go to the front side of it, you know, again, even though it's gigantic, let's still look at the same things. Look at the belt buckle. Came out absolutely perfect, which at this size it should, but it also did. And if you look at the bag, you know, the pouch, the stitching came out great. You can very clearly see the twists on the rope. So that's good. It really just picked up every little detail that was sculpted in is there. Of course, the teeth on the gun are extremely well defined. I mean, overall, if you look at this print, it is just super duper crispy. Looks great. So, you know, you can't ask for anything more to print at this size and have the details come out like this. I just think, you know, this is fantastic. So that's it for my review of the Saturn. Very happy with what it's doing. Just make sure you don't have the turbo zoom mode going. If you do, correct it, and then I think you're all set. So that's it. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed. Happy 3D printing.